just to give you a little idea of how slippy these are when they're wet, just got them in between the fingers. I'm gonna give them a bit of a squeeze. They're like an orange pip. Oh no. Oh no. I actually can't see where they landed. I did not plan this. These on the other hand, oh look, there they are. You're just not losing these as easily. Okay, in this video, as I shelter under this tree from the rain, I am going to talk about the differences between what I think are two very popular choices when it comes to running headphones. On one hand, we got the Apple AirPods 4 ANC, on the other hand, we got the Shokz OpenRun Pro 2. It is bone conduction versus in-ear noise cancellation, and I gotta be honest, I love both of these headphones. Personally, I use these all the time for my editing. The noise cancellation in them is absolutely amazing. If I'm traveling, I'm on a ferry or some kind of transport or flying, put them in, kills all the background noise, and I can just focus. But the Shokz have been my go-to headphones of choice. I really love them. I've been almost using them exclusively for running for the last 5 years. In fact, I love them so much, I contacted Shokz and said, hey, would you like to sponsor my channel? And so yes, Shokz sponsor my channel. So this video is entirely biased because of how much I love these for running, but I've got good reasons for why I have that bias. I used headphones like this for over 10 years when I first started running until I discovered Shokz. And once I discovered these, there was no going back. So that's what Shokz have asked me to do in this video, let you know why I made the switch. So let's get started. I feel like this is probably a good time to talk about water resistance, because that's something that's really important when you're out trail running. Not only are you sweating, but also you can be out in conditions like this where it's raining and it's pretty nasty. So both the AirPods 4 and the Shokz OpenRun Pro 2 are rated against sweat and dust and rain, but they are not equal. AirPods are IP54, but the Shokz are IP55. Now that's just like one of a difference, but it does actually make a difference, because in practice what it means is the AirPods are fine in sort of most conditions. If it rains on and off, if you sweat, that's fine. But if you're out all day in really wet and rainy conditions, there is a potential that that could cause some kind of damage. The Shokz, on the other hand, will handle pretty much whatever weather conditions you can throw at them, because they're just that bit higher rated. So that is another, in my view, considering the types of conditions I go running in, another major tick in favor of the Shokz. Okay, so let's talk about controls. So the AirPods 4, the way you control them is you squeeze them. If I squeeze it once, that'll pause. If I squeeze it again, that'll start playing. I can also program them, so if I do a long squeeze, I can then, that just activated noise cancellation, and all of a sudden I can't hear the wind or the rain. Just squeeze that, and that switches noise cancellation off. Both sides have got that option. You can single click, double click, or long press, and you can program that to do whatever you want. So you can see the AirPods don't actually have physical buttons that stick out and give you feedback like actual real buttons. Instead they have this little haptic, I think you call it, section here that you can squeeze. And you squeeze it, you sort of get a little bit of a sensation of a click, but it's not the same as a real physical button, although it does work reasonably well. Now when it comes to running, it's fine if it's in warmer weather. You can kind of get up there and you can kind of squeeze, you can squeeze it, it's not too bad. But if it's in colder weather and you've got a buff on, or something that's covering it up, you can't really press through and activate them, which is a little bit of a nuisance. When it comes to Shokz, on the other hand, they have actual physical buttons. You've got one button here, which is your general control button. So you press that once for pause and play. You can double tap it and that'll skip. I don't think there's a long press option. Then you've got a little double controller under here. You click it one way, click, click. That increases volume. Click it the other way, click, click. That decreases the volume. And then also you can press and hold and that'll switch them on and off. What I like about the Shokz is the fact that if I'm wearing a hat, if I have a hood on, I can press through that hood and I can still get that button and I can still pause it and I can still advance. So for everyday use, I think, to be honest, the controls are fairly equal, but when it comes specifically to trail running, I just find the Shokz easier to use. Okay, let's talk about fit and comfort. I've got the Shokz on now and they feel really secure because they've got that band that goes all the way back around the back of your head, and there's a bit of a spring in that, so it's got multiple points of contact. You've got sort of that grip coming from the sides, but it's not a strong grip, it's a very, very light grip, and then they hang on top of your ears, which means that the weight, I find, is really evenly distributed, and when I have them on for a while, I forget they're there. I mean, like all new things, once you put them on the first time, you know, it takes a bit of getting used to, but yeah, I can wear these all day with no discomfort. And one of the things I love about them is because of the way they're designed. If I decide, you know what, I want to take my headphones off, I can just put them around my neck and they'll stay there all day as I go and run. When you're wearing the Shokz, there is nothing that goes inside your ear. They go around the sides and the audio is committed via that bone conduction and a tiny little speaker. So what that means is my ear holes are open the entire time, so I've got good situational awareness, but also I find that's quite a comfortable feeling because, you know, your ears aren't plugged up, they're open, and there's just something more, it's somehow more refreshing. It's hard to describe. The Apple AirPods, on the other hand, are different. They are still comfortable. I mean, these are a very comfortable in-ear headphone. Now, the shape doesn't suit everybody, but I've always found this shape of headphones, for me, feels really comfortable. And again, after a while of wearing them, you know, I kind of forget they're there, unless I wear them for an extended period of time. And then what I find is, especially if it's warm, I find my ears start to feel kind of, it's hard to like a bit stuffy, a bit warm, and I feel like I just got to get them out. The other downside I find with them is, by their design, they're not secured together. They're two very shiny and also slippy pieces of plastic. Just to give you a little idea of how slippy these are when they're wet, just got them in between the fingers. I'm gonna give them a bit of a squeeze. They're like an orange pip. Oh no. Oh no. Where did that land? I actually can't see where they landed. I did not plan this. You are kidding me. You are actually kidding me. And there it is. I feel like you're not going to believe me, but I genuinely did not plan that. It took me 5 minutes to find it. I tested it first and I looked and I was able to see it, but it just bounced under a leaf. If that happened during a trail race. These, on the other hand, oh look, there they are. You know, yeah, you're just not losing these as easily. And because they're not secured together, if it falls out, well, you know. And the situation where I have had them fall out of my ears is when I'm wearing a buff, or when I've got my hood up and I'm trying to take that buff off or put it back on again, just because of the way they stick out. Quite often the buff will catch them, it'll just bing, and if you do take them out, well, what do you do with them now? You gotta, you know, tuck them into your race vest, and they're quite small, so they can get lost, so maybe you don't want to do that if you've got lots of other things in your race vest. You gotta hook in, you gotta get your case out, you gotta open it up, put your headphones in, seal that up and put it back in. It's just not as easy and not as intuitive as it is with the Shokz. Okay, let's talk about awareness and safety, and this is one of the standout features of this kind of open ear technology. The fact there's nothing in your ears means your ear canals are open, which means you're getting all of the unfiltered sounds of nature, or, you know, tractors and lorries driving past you coming in. So I'm very unique about it. I can put on my music, I can hear my music, but I still have all the environmental sounds as well. It's a little bit like if you're making a video, sometimes you'll match the soundtrack to the scene. You still get all the scene sounds, you still feel immersed in that scene, but the soundtrack is then adding an extra level to it. So I really, really like how that works, and I like that you're just getting those live sounds unprocessed with whatever your personal choice of soundtrack is over the top. The AirPod 4s, to their credit, now do have what's called an awareness feature. So when I switch on that awareness feature, they amplify the outdoor noise and then project it sort of into your ear. It's kind of a little bit like the way a hearing aid works, and it is quite effective. It is quite effective. You can hear cars, you can hear sounds, you can hear wind and rain. So it does give you that situational awareness, but I still find it's not the same as having your ears actually open, because it's, you know, it's been digitally processed and then piped into your head. When I take those out, suddenly the world feels a little bit more vibrant, even though these aren't currently on, they're just sitting in my ear. And just the fact I've got something in my ear, you know, it's kind of plugging it up. It gives me that slight, it's a little bit of a goldfish bowl feeling, which is great if you're wanting to, when you're wanting to work and you're wanting to block out the world around you. But I just find it makes me feel slightly disconnected. The other disadvantage of the awareness pass-through feature of the AirPods 4 is that it reduces your battery life, which makes this probably a good time to talk about battery life. I came in under this tree because I thought I'd get out of the rain, but it's still dripping on my face. Okay, so the AirPods, if you have that pass-through feature on, so if you want situational awareness, you got a maximum of 4 hours before the battery's going to run out. Now, you can then pop them in this case and top it up, and this case will give you up to 20 hours of charging, and just 5 minutes in this case will give you 1 hour of listening time. But it is going to mean if you're out for a long run, you're using the headphones, you're going to have to stop, put them in here, and you know, there's a bit of a process to it. The Shokz have got a much bigger battery in them, much better battery life on their own. They've got 12 hours from a single charge, and then they have a USB connector on the back, and a 5-minute charge on these will give you 2.5 hours of playtime. So I guess each of them has got different advantages and disadvantages when it comes to battery life. Okay, let's talk about sound quality, and this is one battle that the Shokz just cannot win. The audio quality of the AirPods 4 is fantastic. It's so good. In fact, the audio in these is so good that I've started watching my favorite TV shows on my laptop, so I can use these to get a better audio experience than watching it on my TV. There's really good bass. They've got like a directional sound. So if you're watching something on your laptop and it's here and you turn your head, it then sounds like the audio is moving. Really cool feature. And for music, they sound, yeah, absolutely brilliant. So the AirPods win this battle. However, that said, the Shokz still have what I think is absolutely fantastic audio quality and is more than good enough for trail running. I started 4 years ago using a much older version of these bone conducting headphones, and 4 years ago I was quite pleased with the audio quality. Since then it has got better and better. The bass is now much better. It used to be they just had just the bone conduction driver in there, but since then they've added this. See that little grill? That grill is a speaker. It's an open ear speaker. It's like a speaker that projects the sound in a way. So when you've got these on, you're getting the bone conduction, which tends to give you sort of the higher frequencies, and then that little speaker in there is sort of projecting bass then into your ears. The audio quality on these is the best it's ever has been. There is one little hack you can do which will improve the audio quality of these if you don't want to have your ears open. So if you're sitting watching stuff and you're listening to music and you're at home, you can just get a pair of earplugs, stick them in your ears, and you'll get a little bit of a quality boost out of these. It's the only scenario where these have struggled is if it's incredibly windy, like really windy, and just the noise of the wind going past your ears. Or if you're on a bike and it's windy and it's rainy at the same time, you can lose a bit of quality. It means it's still fine for listening to music, but if you're listening to podcasts, it can get hard to follow the conversation. But other than that, yeah, brilliant audio quality, more than good enough for outdoor activities. Okay, let's talk about the cost difference. The Apple AirPods 4 with the ANC cost £169. You can get a version that doesn't have the noise cancellation that's £119, but in my opinion, it's not worth having unless you're getting the noise cancellation. That's, for me, the standout feature. The Shokz OpenRun Pro cost £169, but there is going to be 20% off for Black Friday. So if you're interested in getting a pair during Black Friday, check out the link in the description. To summarize then, while the AirPods 4 are absolutely amazing headphones, I love them, I use them for work, I use them for listening to podcasts and getting stuff done around the house. For me, they're not my first choice when it comes to trail running, because my first choice when it comes to trail running are the Shokz OpenRun Pro 2. And I think for me, it's all about that feeling of open air freedom. I think that's it. Yeah, I just feel freer when I have these because there's less fiddling, there's less faffing. I don't have to deal with a little case. I don't have to worry about having to charge them sooner. You know, I often leave these in my van for weeks without charging them. You know, and I go back and I stick them on, they've still got some battery in them, so that's a freedom. When I'm wearing them, you know, if I want to take them off, I can just slap them around my neck. And then when I'm actually using them, my ears are open, I can feel the cold. I don't feel like that slightly goldfish bowl experience when you've got something plugged in your brain, plugged in your ears. And ultimately, freedom is what running, and especially trail running, is all about.